see that trade? Hey, NFL fans, welcome to the Atlanta Sports Unlimited YouTube channel with Tom Paul, and I'm Dave Holcomb for another episode of NFL Jocks and Pigskins. Thanks for tuning in this Saturday afternoon on the East Coast, Saturday morning where Tom is in Chicago.
Absolutely.
And we got more free agency discussion this week, but we're going to kick off with some Falcons news, what they've done latest this week to improve their roster. But what everyone is talking about around the NFL is the big trade that went down yesterday between the San Francisco 49ers and the Miami Dolphins. And the Dolphins made another trade with the Philadelphia Eagles. That has ramifications for the Falcons as well. And we'll spend a lot of time today breaking down that trade from all types of different angles.
Yeah, the surprise part was the Dolphins getting back into the top five or top six. I mean, I didn't expect that. Normally you make your big trade, you make your big move, and that's pretty much it. And Miami they're showing they're going to be aggressive this offseason. They want to get some pieces in place for Tua and I think the one thing that became obvious after yesterday's trade is Tua is the Miami Dolphins quarterback. They are going to move forward with him. There is no doubt they're not looking to trade or they're not looking to select. So trading down really didn't hurt them in any way. And obviously San Francisco has decided that they're going to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't care what they're saying publicly. Jimmy Garoppolo is done in San Francisco because they're not going to pay him as much money as they are just to be the backup.
Yeah. I agree. And there's no way they're trading up to not take a quarterback. That's the
exactly. That's the only reason you're doing this.
Right. Yeah.
You're not trading up to get a tackle or a wide receiver. You want that quarterback. So, all of a sudden 3 quarterbacks, it looks like, are going to be taken before the Falcons get a chance at number 4. It really opens a lot of questions for the Falcons.
It does. Yes. And before we dive any further, I want to let our listeners know, send us your comments, your tweets. At TJ Pollen is Tom's handle on Twitter. At DM Holcomb, follow me and tweet at me there on Twitter. Give a shout out to Chris, our producer. Thanks for being with us today, Chris. And go ahead.
No, I just want to say one more thing. Got my first COVID shot the other day.
Oh, so very nice.
Yeah,
very nice. Well,
I got stuck, and the second one is in 3 weeks, and God, that felt, it was nice to be able to get that out of the way.
Yeah, congrats on getting that. Georgia opened it up to all adults are eligible for the vaccine. They opened it up 2 days ago, so I will be trying to sign up for one very soon.
Oh, I had enough trouble signing up considering, the class that I'm in so far. But I managed to find an appointment somewhere. It's not an easy thing.
That's what I've heard. I've read, on the news and the newspaper, and from now that it's pretty popular and readily available to a lot of people. From what I've heard from friends and family, that yes, it's very difficult to sign up.
Yeah, a bit of a sore arm, soreness around the body for a couple of days, but overall that was it. No real side effects. So, as you can see, I'm normally talking and saying things that are kind of, I'm joshing. Come on.
You're not talking any more than normal. Is that what you're saying?
No. Right.
Yeah.
Talking really good. Gooder than I used to.
Yes. Let's recap for anybody who missed the trade yesterday. Let's recap what actually the trade was. The 49ers traded up from number 12 to number 3 with the Miami Dolphins. In order to make that 9-pick jump, they gave up the number 12 and then 2 additional first-round picks along with a third-round pick this year. It was a huge price to move up. I know they're getting the number 3 pick, but they're only moving up 9 spots. And I mean, you can look at it either way. That's a lot or not a lot. I mean, that's the difference between being able to take an elite quarterback and not, and that's why it's so the price was so high. But these top 5, top 3 picks just seem to be coveted more and more every year, and the price to trade up for one is going up.
Yeah, they are. I think teams are starting to, even maybe general managers who were a little slow on the uptake are finally figuring out that you've got to be up there to get your quarterback. Really realizing that quarterback is the most important position on the field, and if you don't get it right, you can be the Chicago Bears. So, yeah, it's just the way it is. So you've got to get up in the draft to be able to take one. And I was really shocked that it was the Niners, because I thought they were going to be giving Jimmy Garoppolo another run, another season. Was hurt last year, but led the Niners to a Super Bowl 2 years ago. Come on. Yeah. And it's amazing how quick we saw it with Carson Wentz, how quick that Super Bowl quarterback seemed to drop if they can't maintain that same performance.
With Jimmy Garoppolo, though, I think there was even chatter last year that whether or not the 49ers were truly committed to him. And last year there were a lot of veteran quarterbacks on the market that I guess the 49ers, I mean, the rumors were thinking about, Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, guys like that would have been an upgrade from Garoppolo. But still, I think the even after immediately going to the Super Bowl, there was the chatter of, is Jimmy Garoppolo the real solution there? And I don't remember that chatter with Jared Goff right after the Super Bowl or Carson Wentz. They had good seasons to go to the Super Bowl, and not that Garoppolo was bad when they went to the Super Bowl. It just very much was that defense and that defensive line, which was also injured last year for San Francisco.
Yes, that's true. Right, and they lost to Forrest Buckner to Indianapolis in free agency. Yeah. So, or was it a trade?
They traded him.
Yeah, it's hard to tell anymore. God, it's hard to remember.
They got a first-round pick from him.
Players are moving so rapidly. It's back in my day, back when I was a kid, Dave, we didn't have all this trading of players and draft picks and all that stuff. You sat where you liked and you got it. You got it done, and you were in your spot and you liked it. You liked it a lot. So,
Well, it's definitely a better environment for the players now than it was back then, for sure. Yeah. I don't know if it's better for us fans because, it's a full-time job trying to keep track of where everybody's going. But for players trying to maximize their career by, making as much money as possible, it's much better for them. And being in a situation where you can win and succeed as a player. You're not stuck with the team.
Exactly. But this tells you something also, because Kyle Shanahan is kind of like the quarterback guru. And if he doesn't think he could get anywhere with Garoppolo, you really have to wonder about Jimmy G's future in the NFL. Does he go back to being a career backup? I think he probably gets one more shot at being the man somewhere. But, I really haven't given a look at who might be his best options right now. But obviously, San Francisco wants to trade him before the draft. They're saying all the right things about how Jimmy G is still our guy, but you didn't trade up to number 3 and give up all that capital to have Jimmy Garoppolo as your quarterback in 2021.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Absolutely. The obvious fit for Jimmy G is New England. I know they just signed Cam Newton, but there's even reports that the Patriots are not fully committed to Newton as their starter.
I've heard that.
So does the Patriots go after Jimmy Garoppolo? Could that be a fit reunion? I don't know. I do agree with you. I think he will get another shot to start somewhere because again, as you said, he went to the Super Bowl just 2 years ago. But it's probably going to be for a team that, is in transition at quarterback, isn't fully.
Yes.
They're probably not even going to be fully convinced he's the answer either. It's kind of he'll be the bridge to their long-term solution.
Very likely, yes. You're right. That's where it sets up right now. So,
I get on the trade is obviously 49ers and Miami. It affects them directly, but this trade affects many other teams indirectly, and I guess we should also talk about the Eagles at some point, who they were the other trade partner with Miami yesterday.
Right.
But from a Falcons standpoint, you hit upon it a little bit. It is now obvious, and we weren't on this train, but I know some people were, that 3 quarterbacks were going to go at the top of the draft. We were hesitant to say that. We didn't think that was very likely. At least it was possible, but not likely. Now it's very likely. Now it's like a done deal. Quarterbacks.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's going to happen. I had seen a lot of.
Where's that leave Atlanta?
Well, I had seen a lot of mock drafts that had Travis Etienne going to Miami to team up with Tua and being a good 1-2 punch there.
Yeah.
He's a heck of a running back. He might end up in Atlanta. I mean, it's amazing how the complexion of the draft has completely changed for Terry Fontenot and Alex, and Smith. It's do you still stay with the quarterback? But if you stay, if you're thinking quarterback, you're not getting the player that maybe you wanted before the, last week when we were talking on this show, Atlanta had a couple more options at quarterback that they don't have now. So it's probably going to come down to, do you take Trey Lance? Do you take Mac Jones? Mac Jones is rising in everybody's draft board. Yeah. It's amazing how players tend to rise and fall on draft boards when the season is, 2 months over. But
yeah, I know. Well, I read a report yesterday that don't rule out Mac Jones at number 3 to the 49ers. Which, if that happens,
you never know. And then that gives, Fields and Trey Lance gives the Falcons the option of taking one of those 2 quarterbacks, or they take Trey Lance and Mac Jones, or they still get a couple of years of Matt Ryan. Do you groom a quarterback behind Ryan, or do you take an impact running back like Etienne's supposed to be? Strong runner, has some speed, very good out of the backfield in the passing game. This is a guy who has a lot of positive traits rolled into one running back body. And does this give the Falcons a running game to help complement Matt Ryan?
Yeah. I agree there. I also think there's an offensive lineman from the offensive lineman from Oregon.
Yes.
Trying to think of his
Sewell?
name. Yeah,
Sewell.
Penei Sewell. He's a top 5 pick, and he would be an upgrade from and an improvement. He would address a need for the Falcons. They have
absolutely.
A lot of, but that would address a need. Micah Parsons, the linebacker from Penn State, ran a really fast 40 time. I know, you're laughing because his draft stock shouldn't go up because of the 40 time, but the fact of the matter is it did. It did. So does that tempt the Falcons to take him at number 4?
You know what I say is you start with the tape. If somebody has, we don't have a combine this year, but if somebody has a really exceptional pro day, shows you some things you didn't expect to see, you take that into consideration, then you go back to the tape. You go back to the film. Trust what you saw on the field. Because a lot of great athletes, you can be a great athlete, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a great football player.
Right, yeah.
Yes. And I've seen a lot of guys who probably, had decent 40s, decent vertical leap, nothing outstanding, but became great football players because they have a nose for the ball. They know where the ball's going to be. They know what the situation is. They know where everybody on the field is going to be. So, you have to have a sense for the game. There's a little extra to it than just, running a fast 40 or being able, having that big vertical leap. So I'm not so sure that I'm as impressed with pro days as a lot of people seem to be. You're not facing real competition.
The thing also with pro days, and I think this is a thing that you don't trust especially with a 40 time, you don't trust the time on the pro day as much as you do at the combine, because you've got favorable people timing you at your pro day that were your coach or your trainer from your school, whatever. So they're they might have a little bit faster hand there when you are close to the starting line. It's not like a huge difference. It's not going to be half a second or anything like that, but there could be a little bit of a difference, and NFL teams take stock in much more of your 40 time at the combine, which we're not getting this year.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Everything it's kind of like the Olympics when the NFL does the combine. Everything is precision timed and precision measured to the fraction of an inch. And with NFL players, that maybe slightly slower, slightly quicker stopwatch makes a difference. Fractions of a second make a big difference when it comes to the NFL. A lot more than it does in college. So, that does make a difference.
Chris, can you put that comment back on the screen for us? From Tristam West, it changes my plans as far as because I was hoping we would trade back and then draft Trey Lance. I'm assuming he's talking about the trade here changes his plans, as well as pick up extra picks. I can't see us getting Lance now. We should still trade back, though. I'm glad Wes brings this up here because I think this is really the definitive thing we can say about how this trade impacts the Falcons. We can talk about who's going to be available to them, who they might be interested. Is it Parsons? Is it Sewell? Is it a running back? The fact is we don't know yet. But what I think we can definitively say is it got a lot harder for the Falcons to trade back after this trade. Because the quarterback market now is who's going to trade up to get Mac Jones? Who's going to trade up to get Trey Lance? Because the top three quarterbacks are going to be gone. I think in order for that number 4 pick to have more value, the Falcons were hoping the Jets didn't go quarterback or the Dolphins stayed at 3 and didn't take a quarterback. Then one of the best 3 quarterbacks would have been available at 4, and then the Falcons would have a bunch of teams probably trading up, San Francisco, maybe Philly, Carolina, Denver. Now, San Francisco's out of it. Philadelphia is probably out of it.
San Francisco traded up. So
San Francisco's out of the market for number 4.
Right, for the 4th. Yeah, for the number 4.
And Philadelphia is too, because Philadelphia traded back. Their strategy is they're not taking a quarterback. They moved out of the top 10. So
Philadelphia just had Jalen Hurts as our quarterback.
Yes. So there's fewer teams vying for that number 4 spot, which is lowering the value, and there's fewer quarterbacks available. So I would still say the best strategy in a perfect world is for the Falcons to trade back and get more picks. But I don't know what that looks like now with the quarterback market drying up by the 4th pick. I didn't expect that to happen, and it's going to happen.
Nobody did.
And no disrespect to Mac Jones and Trey Lance. They're going to probably be top 16 picks, and they could end up having better careers than some of the top 3 quarterbacks. But, I don't know. I don't see anybody vying to trade up for number 4 to get them.
See, what I think is you're going to see Lawrence, Wilson, and Fields top 3.
Did Tom, you there? I guess Tom's computer froze. I think it's Tom's computer, not my computer. Chris, you still there?
I'm still here. So it's Tom.
So, yeah, I think we lost Tom there. I think he's kind of piggying back off of what I said, that it's gotten harder for the Falcons to try and trade back out of the number 4 pick because there's just not going to be as many there's not as many suitors, and there's not as many quarterbacks that if somebody's in love with Justin Fields, he's not going to be there at number 4 because he's going to go at number 2 or number 3. What's interesting, if I bring this back up from San Francisco perspective, and we talked a lot about Carson Wentz a few weeks ago when he got traded to Indianapolis. This trade reminds me a little bit of Philadelphia trading up to number 2 before the 2016 NFL draft, because San Francisco's trading up. There is a top 3 quarterbacks, and Trevor Lawrence is clearly the number 1, and he's going to go number 1 to Jacksonville. The next 2 are somewhat interchangeable. I mean, depending on who you ask, somebody might say they want Zach Wilson. Some might say they want Justin Fields. And there is even a chance that Mac Jones is up there in the top 3. But what I find interesting with San Francisco trading up to 3, they don't know who they're going to get at quarterback. Unless they're in love with Mac Jones and they know that somehow they know the Jets are going to go with Zach Wilson at number 2, 49ers are kind of trading up to take a quarterback at number 3, but they don't know necessarily what quarterback that's going to be. And that is similar to what the Eagles did, because the Eagles traded up for number 2 in 2016. I think they flat out said, we'll take Jared Goff or Carson Wentz. We like both. Rams took Goff, so that left Wentz to Philadelphia. From Falcons Nation, Falcons fans need to understand we have everything we need already on the team. Also, we are doing well with us picking up well-balanced, needed fits in free agency. We need to stack as many picks from here on out. I agree with the last part, and I guess he keeps going on. Out primarily focusing on defense and picking up key pieces like rookie tight ends and running backs, maybe a guard, about it for offensive side. Well, I agree with part of what you're talking about, more of the second part of that statement, Falcons Nation, that stockpiling picks is never a bad idea. It's not a full rebuild for the Falcons because you got Matt Ryan at quarterback. You got an aging quarterback. You're not really rebuilding, but you're restocking picks and trying to rebuild or reload on the fly. Tom and I have talked about that the last few weeks, about the Falcons reloading on the fly. But in terms of your first statement, I don't know if you saw, Tom, we had a comment from a fan saying everything that the Falcons need is on the roster. I don't really agree with that. I think they have an offensive line. I think they have major needs on defense. They can build around a couple of defensive players. Grady Jarrett comes to mind. Desean Jones, right, I think, is still a solid player. But they have needs at pass rush. The secondary, they've added some guys in free agency, and we're going to get to a name they added this week. But I think they still need to add more to the secondary. And that's why Tom and I have been clamoring for weeks, trade back and try to get more picks, because the Falcons they have more holes, and they need to address them. And I don't think that everything they need is already on the roster.
No, and we'll start off with running back. And you can never have too many tackles. So, if you want to, even if you want to move back, you can get a quality player. You can get a quality player and still get extra picks. You don't have to move out of the top 10, if you really don't want to. It opens up a lot of questions for the Falcons. And I know I dropped out. I don't know what's wrong with my computer, why it dropped out like that.
That's all right. We all go through computer problems.
But
we've got another comment here from Roderick Wooden. Contractually, Matt is not going anywhere. Tampa Bay is stacked. We need to create mismatches. The NFC is tougher. Please get Pitts. I definitely agree with the first parts. The thing with Pitts, do the Falcons really need another pass catcher? I know Pitts might be like an all-world tight end, and 5 years from now, the Falcons may really love having him if they get him. But pass catcher is probably the one area that they really don't need that badly. Assuming Julio Jones is healthy, I know he's getting a little bit older. He's slowed down. He's had injury issues last year, and admittedly, the pass catchers do look a lot different when Julio Jones is not there.
Yes.
But when Julio Jones is there, you got Calvin Ridley, you got
Russell Gage.
Russell Gage is a very solid number 3. I just don't know if you want to have the Falcons sacrifice another first-round pick and number 4 overall pick for a pass catcher when, again, you got needs in the secondary. You have needs at pass rusher. You have needs on offensive line still, even after drafting 2 offensive linemen in the first round 2 years ago. So,
right.
Again, no disrespect to Pitts. He might be an all-world player. He's a guy that you want to have on your fantasy team, and he's a guy that, Falcons fans will probably sell a lot of jerseys, and Falcons fans will love him if he's in Atlanta. But I don't know if that really helps you get closer to a Super Bowl during Matt Ryan's career.
No, neither do I. And I love Pitts. I really do. But that's the thing. Right now, being against the salary cap as high as they are, or as hard as they are, you need youth. You're not going to get difference makers. You're not going to do. In fact, they won. Okay, well, agreed. Pitts is an impact player. He's going to be an impact player for whoever he ends up with. Boy, we're getting a lot of fan feedback for Kylie Pitts here.
Yeah, we love the feedback. Keep it coming.
I'm not going to – I hold the same position with Dave. I'm not going to argue that Pitts wouldn't be a fantastic player, on the Falcons. He would be a day one contributor. I'm not arguing that. But you're struggling for depth at so many positions. You really need this draft to fill some holes on the team that you can't do in free agency because you just don't have the room in free agency.
Falcons Nation says defense.
Well,
yeah,
you're not going to get an argument from me on that. So, if they can afford Hayden Hurst next year, well, I get that. I see that. But you can't draft with that in mind. Now, drafting, you want to get the best player on the board at your position when you're up. And Pitts is going to be one of them. But problem is at the end is going to be another one. The tackle, Sewell from Oregon is going to be another one. They're all, I would say, 1A. They're all guys that you want on your team.
Yeah.
They're all guys that you can do a lot with. And, let's talk about protecting Matt Ryan a little bit better. You got a quarterback who's getting up there in age, can't run. He's never been a runner, but he was able to actually get out of some. He's always been capable of getting out of the pocket when he needs to. But you really don't want to watch him do that, too much anymore. Give him a chance to get the ball to the wide receivers he has. That's a big thing. There is receiving talent in Atlanta. So, give Ryan a chance to get the ball to these guys. And that's kind of what I'm saying. I would like to see them get the tackle. Again, I go from the philosophy you build teams from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you start with line play, you start with your defensive front, and you work back from there. You work back to your specialty players once you get these road graders set up, on the offensive and defensive lines. So,
what's interesting is we've hit upon why this trade negatively impacts the Falcons, but it could also positively impact them because if they stay at 4 and they don't go quarterback, they get whoever they want. Every other player is available to them at number 4, which is unusual. Because normally I think we talked about it a few weeks ago. It's only been 3 times where quarterbacks have gone 1, 2, 3. So very rarely at number 4.
This is going to be the 3rd time.
Yeah. So very rarely at number 4 do you get whoever you want, assuming you don't want the quarterback. And that's what. Right. That's why we talked about first why it negatively impacts the Falcons, because it seems like we're all talking about, well, are they going to take that quarterback? And now that's not going to be available to them, or are they going to trade back? And that is counting on a team wanting a quarterback. Well, 3 of them are gone by the time 4 pops up. Chris,
Cindy makes a great point there. It's the defense blowing leads.
Comment again. Cindy says Matt Ryan wasn't the problem; it was the defense blowing leads. Yeah. For the most part,
I'll go right there. I watched the Bears come back on the Falcons when they had no business coming back.
It's a team game, I wouldn't blame Matt Ryan, but I think the Falcons had too many passes in that Bears game when they were up by double digits in the fourth quarter, rather than trying to run out the clock. But I mean, Todd Gurley also wasn't gaining many yards, so you can see why they were trying to get first downs with passes. And then the defense didn't help by blowing the leads. So yes, I think again,
they had blown the lead to the Cowboys the week before. Blew a lead to the Bears, and then got wiped out by the Packers. They couldn't hit. They had a terrible opening to the season. They had a very rough opening to the season. As far as schedule, I mean, they were going to have to play some damn good ball, and you could argue that maybe they played pretty good ball. But Cindy, I think you're right. That defense gave away a lot of leads. Let me look up something here as far as defense for the Falcons.
You also can't blame the defense for that onside kick that the Falcons didn't recover. And that's not Matt Ryan. I'm not saying that's Matt Ryan's fault. That's not Matt Ryan's fault either. But, I mean, it was – those blown leads were team efforts is my point. that onside kick never have been recovered by Dallas. So
no.
Let's talk a little bit more about what the Falcons did this week in free agency. They added Mike Davis at running back, and they signed cornerback Fabian Moreau to a 1-year deal. I might be saying his last name wrong. Is it like Justin Morneau? Is it Morneau?
Yeah.
Fabian Morneau, 1-year deal. Cornerback, played for the Washington football team last year. So these aren't going to be signings that make a lot of headlines, but Morneau makes them faster and stronger, bigger in the secondary. And Mike Davis, I think people might be looking at him as a starter. Davis probably wants to be a starter. And this would be why some of our listeners would probably disagree with you and say no to Etienne at number 4. However, I don't think you necessarily want Mike Davis to be your starter. He's a very quality running back, and he proved that filling in for Christian McCaffrey last year in Carolina.
Yeah. Oh, he's a quality running back. Yeah.
I think he kind of faded, though, towards the end of the season. Wasn't quite as strong in November and December when he had the full-time job, and I just see him better as a backup, fill in when you have an injury or
Dave, you're not supposed to comment while you're on the show.
Yeah, I got confused there. I didn't think I wrote that comment. So I definitely think running back is still on the board for the Falcons. At some point in the draft, they're going to draft a running back.
It's going to be interesting to see because now we're going to get a good look at Fontenot's draft philosophy. Right out of the bat, you're going to get a good look at what he prizes, what he feels is important. And we can speculate all we want about who we think the Falcons should take. We're going to get a good look at what Terry Fontenot wants to do with this team. Does he take the running back? He's already, Arthur Smith, he's already taken a guy who is good at scheming a running game. And we had a comment earlier about 2 tight end sets, putting tight end sets together. So it's going to be interesting to see what priorities does Fontenot come in with. And it's funny because Mike Davis, 2 years ago when we were both writing for Falcon Maven, Mike Davis was a free agent that I thought would be a positive for the Falcons to go after. And it's taken a year, but they actually caught up with it. They must have read my pieces from over a year ago.
They went back to the Falcon Maven archives.
Yeah.
Gremlin and Cindy agree with us. They like the Mike Davis signing, but they still think the Falcons will address running back. And looking at Davis had a career high. Looking at his stats, he had a career high in rushes last year with 165, and he averaged 3.9 yards per carry, and that yards per carry average went down towards the end of the season. He did average more than 4 yards against Denver and Green Bay in December, but the last game he played against Washington had 28 yards on 14 carries, and was under 4 yards, under 3.7 yards per carry against Detroit and against Minnesota in late November. So that's what I'm talking about with him kind of tailing off. And he's a nice, especially if I think ETN would be a great compliment to Mike Davis, or Davis would be a great compliment to ETN, because ETN he can do everything, but he's probably more elusive. And Davis is your power back, and he comes in and he's your goal line back, and Davis can catch passes too, but I think he would be more of a the power back, short yardage guy, and can fill in if ETN misses any time.
Well,
Chris,
real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt the flow, gentlemen. You know I hate doing this. I know you all are on a roll. I just want to take a quick moment and put Mad Mike's comment up real quick. He just said, I apologize if this is unprofessional, but I love you guys' content. So I just want to make sure that you guys are on the screen. So I apologize. But thank you, Mike. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mad Mike. We really do appreciate it.
Yes, thanks, Mad Mike. Getting love from anybody is not unprofessional. I don't know.
Maybe I enjoy it.
So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think we're hitting the nail on the head. And I think even our commenters are all in agreement with us that we like the Davis signing. That, but the Falcons are not done adding at running back, and keep that in mind. This is also a fantasy show. Keep that in mind if you're a dynasty owner and you have Mike Davis.
Right.
This is probably the time. This next month is the time where you can maybe try and go to somebody. Maybe somebody's not following the Falcons and very closely, and you can go to your buddy and you say, "Look, Mike Davis is going to be the starter for the Falcons at running back this year. And I'll give you a starting running back, and you give me a draft pick in our upcoming rookie draft, or a solid depth wide receiver or something like that." It is a little bit risky because I guess there's always a chance that Mike Davis is the starting running back for the Falcons, and then you lose a starting running back in that trade.
I think he can be. That's the problem. That's the issue. I think this gives the Falcons more flexibility. I think he can be, if you want to, for a season. Now remember, this is the NFL. You can find a running back farther back in the draft that's still going to be effective for you.
Well, that's what I said at some point. I don't think I think it would be unlikely they go there at number 4. But at some point, you can get a quality running back in the second round, third round, or even on the third day. And he would be a good pair with a veteran like Mike Davis, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, exactly. And I think that might be more the way they do it. I see the Falcons going with Penei Sewell out of Oregon. Right now, I think that's the most obvious pick. Micah Parsons, you might see, but a bit more of a stretch. I don't think he's the pick if you're going to be at number 4. So it's tough to say. I want to see what they do. I want to see what – I wouldn't be shocked if they still traded back. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
But you can get – you're going to get a Pro Bowl player if you stay at 4. I think whether you take Etienne or whether you take Sewell, you're going to get a Pro Bowl player for quite a while. And Pitts. I know we got a bunch of our listeners or watchers who still think Pitts is the man, and I'm not going to try and talk you out of it either, because I think Pitts is a quality guy. But Again, you got to go with what holes, and that's kind of what I was getting to when I got cut off is, let me see a couple of things here. I was looking up, sacks on defense. The Falcons were near the bottom of the league, about 30th in sacks with only 29. Looking at pressures, and I'm looking this up on Pro Football Reference. If you want to look at, they do a good job of advanced defense. And if you look at pressures, again, the Falcons, did a little bit better as far as pressuring a quarterback, didn't quite get to him. But still, there's a lot of room for improvement when it comes to getting pressure on a quarterback. And, you can do a lot for your offense by, 3 and outs, turnovers. You can give your offense a lot of great field position, a lot of positive yardage, a lot of positive yardage situations where they don't have to drive an entire field just to get, just to score points. You're giving them advantages on defense too. If you can improve that defense, if you can get sacks, if you can get somebody who can get to that quarterback, Barrett's is tying up guys in the middle of that line. So who's coming around the edge to help you? That's the thing.
In this pass happy league, you can't win a Super Bowl without a pass rush. You have to have an elite pass rush. And a lot of it has to do with setting up your offense, as you're talking about, in good field position. But even if you have a good offense that doesn't necessarily need that all the time, in order to slow down the other team, in order to slow down Patrick Mahomes, we saw it in the Super Bowl. You have to have a pass rush. You have to have a defensive line that gets to the quarterback. And when you're facing an elite quarterback like Mahomes, be able to get pressure on him without bringing more than 4 guys.
Well, and that's how Tampa Bay did it. They brought 4 guys. That's how they did it against the Saints. That's how they did it against Kansas City. That's why they were able to cover all those crossing routes against the Kansas City Chiefs. Because, they had the extra linebacker. They weren't blitzing that extra linebacker. They weren't blitzing the nickel quarterback. They weren't blitzing the safety. They had everybody in. They had 7 guys sitting in the secondary making life miserable for Kansas City's receivers. So can you find a way to get that kind of pass rush with just 4 men? And that's the important part. The less times you have to blitz, the better off you're going to be.
The last angle I want to cover with the Blockbuster trade yesterday, I guess we could dive more into the Eagles, but we mentioned them. They're trading back. They're committed to Jalen Hurts, and from a fantasy perspective, if you picked up Jalen Hurts late last year on your dynasty team as kind of a flyer, I guess, you love it. It looks like Jalen Hurts is going to be a starter this fall. But the last angle I want to get to, Tom, is Deshaun Watson. And this is a real tricky situation, and it's getting worse for him by the week, it seems like.
It really is.
I guess by the day. In the last 24 hours, 2 more suits were filed against him, civil suits. It's up to 20 now. There are 24 alleged cases of 24 women have come forward and have said that he's either sexually harassed or sexually assaulted them, all during massages that he received. And these massages have taken place over the last year. Sports Illustrated had an article come out this week that documented when each incident allegedly happened. And I believe the first date was March 2020, and the most recent one was a few weeks ago, this month.
Say hi to Zozo.
Hey, Zozo.
Zozo makes his first appearance at 44 minutes into the show. So if anybody hit 44 minutes, you win. Right. Zozo has appeared.
with teams trading up, where 49er, as we talked about with the Falcons, 49ers are taking a quarterback in the top 3. Eagles are not taking a quarterback. The Dolphins seem to be out of those Watson sweepstakes, at least for now. They do have a plethora of first-round picks that they could still deal for him, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
I've heard rumors that, and this is just speculation from a lot of sports writers, but that the Dolphins are actually the best team in position to put together a package that Seattle might say yes to for Russell Wilson. Yeah.
Oh, you had to go there.
I have seen that speculated, and so you never know. This Russell Wilson thing just won't go away.
No, it won't. It won't. But
until the day of the draft, I don't think Russell Wilson's going anywhere. But I just thought that was hilarious that the one takeaway a few writers I saw had about this draft was that, Miami they're stockpiled. They can go after Russell Wilson now.
Well, I mean, if you look at it that way, they're still stockpiled for Deshaun Watson too. But I would think that Houston would have wanted the number 3 pick for Watson, not 6 and a few other picks.
Right.
And Miami trading back up for 6, they won a player at 6. They didn't trade that to get the pick to then deal. So I think it's Tua and Miami, at least this year, and then Miami is probably out of the Watson sweepstakes. So then who's left to trade for Deshaun Watson this year? Carolina, maybe Denver.
Unfortunately, I don't think anybody's left. I think with the weight of all these accusations hanging on him, I think the trade market is really dried up for Deshaun Watson. I can't see a team taking him without some of these sexual assault allegations, some of these things being cleared or explained, or anything happening. I've seen a lot of different. This hurts because I really like Deshaun Watson. I've really, really liked him. But I wouldn't be surprised if Houston had some eyes on the ground saying, hey, we got a few women that are saying things about Watson. Nobody's come forward yet. Because once the first few come forward, that's when the others get enough courage to come forward. A lot of it has to do with, they're afraid nobody's going to listen to them over this, big-time professional athlete.
Right.
And once they start seeing other people coming forward, they're willing to state their case too. A lot of people, I've heard a lot of things said about, well, Houston has engineered a lot of these things. McNair has engineered a lot of these things. They might have talked the first couple of plaintiffs, first couple of women to come forward and say, yeah, he molested us. But you've got to, the dam is shaking loose. Everything's coming out now. So, maybe the first 2 were encouraged by the Houston Texans, but not 18 more.
Why would the Houston Texans encourage these women to come out? Other than the goodness of their heart, they want
because they were forcing him. They wanted him. They didn't want to trade him. And I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying that's a possibility. You can't turn your back on 20 sexual assault cases. And nobody is going to trade for Deshaun Watson right now until they figure out who's good, how this is going to turn out.
Yeah.
And it's not going to happen. So
Watson probably, there's really nothing else he can do at this point except stay quiet. So that's probably his best strategy at this point. But as the cases keep mounting, I mean, you can't ignore it. You can't just hope it goes away. 24 women aren't going away.
No,
and the NFL knows that. And what's kind of ironic is Watson wanted out of Houston. And now, I mean, this might be worst case scenario, but there is a Adrian Peterson-like scenario on the table at this point where he doesn't play at all this season. And
that's very possible.
And he's on the, I guess, the exempt list, I guess, where he gets paid, but he's not playing at all this season. And if that's in Watson's best interest to get paid for this year, even if he doesn't play, he has to be on Houston's roster. And I say that's ironic because the only way he's going to get paid is if he's in Houston, which is not where he wants to be. At least that's not where he wanted to be a couple months ago. So, to go back to your point, though, that Houston didn't want to trade him, I saw a report this week Houston did want to trade him, that Houston was kind of coming to the realization that they wanted to trade him, that it wasn't going to work out with him, and now they feel like they're stuck with him. That I think you're right. A trade's not happening.
They are stuck with him. And the problem is he might be subject to suspension by the NFL too. Depending on what kind of what the investigation turns up.
I think that's best case scenario for him at this point. Best case scenario is he settles on these. They're only civil cases at this point. I don't mean to use the word only, but they're not criminal. It could become criminal, but I think it's important to note that it is only civil at this point. And I think the best case scenario for Watson is it stays that way. He settles these cases, admits to some kind of wrongdoing, and then the NFL will suspend him for that wrongdoing that he admits to. And that's best case. And he misses
right now. That is best case. It's rough, and again, it's rough for me as someone who really likes Watson, likes what he does on the field. But you can't turn your back on everything that's coming out and the number of people that are coming out and making claims against Watson.
We're not getting into the details of the allegations, but I recommend everyone going to SI.com and reading the full article detailing the exact timeline of all the incidences and what he's being accused of. And unfortunately, I think after you read that, you will come out of there not liking Deshaun Watson based on what the people are saying he did to them. The women are saying what he did to them. So,
and that's you just can't do that. I mean, you can't do that if you're in regular life and then you're just you're in a 9 to 5 40 hours a week job or whatever you do. You can't get away with this. And I think, you might have a player who, they're told they're great all their lives and nobody's ever told them different. And all of a sudden, they feel they can get away with things. And, it's just not the case. You can't do this, whether you're an all-star quarterback, Pro Bowl quarterback, Pro Bowl running back, wide receiver. You just can't do these things. A baseball player, you can't do it if you're in real life. It's just inexcusable. And I don't know. I don't know what to say right now. I'm clearly not exonerating Deshaun Watson here. He's got problems he's got to deal with. He's got this situation that's going to have to get cleaned up. And we'll see. It's still very early in the process as far as what's coming out, but this is getting worse every day.
Yes, it is. It is. I know this is a fantasy show, but I think it's too insensitive to talk about Deshaun Watson's fantasy value at this point. But just know if you have Watson on your dynasty team, it's not good. You're looking at a doomsday scenario where he's not available at all, and Houston is looking at the same scenario that he would not be available at all in 2021. And I guess the same situation Houston's in, that they're stuck with him. You're stuck with Deshaun Watson if you're a dynasty owner.
Well, I think that's the main reason why they signed Tyrod Taylor.
That's true.
They signed him as a free agent to be the guy just in case Watson, something did happen with Watson. Now all of a sudden things are, it's not the contract situation anymore that Houston's worried about with Watson. It's this, all these allegations that are coming out.
Yes.
So, we'll see what happens with it. It'll be interesting to keep our finger on the pulse as we keep going forward.
This is a very big transition, but we're going to move back to free agency for the last few minutes of our show. Let's talk some wide receivers. We only have a couple minutes, but I think it was just a couple hours after our show last week that we talked about Kenny Gallaudet, but Gallaudet officially signed with the Giants.
Yes, we did.
A few hours after our show last Saturday. And I'm in a group chat with several Giants fans, and they loved the signing, loved it. It was like they won the Super Bowl. Yeah. They were very excited about the signing. And, I think it is a good real-life signing. We just discussed this last week. There's a difference between liking a signing for the team and liking it for that player's fantasy value. But I think Gallaudet's value drops a little bit because he's got Daniel Jones at quarterback now. And based on your evaluation of Jones last week, I think you were going to agree.
Yeah, because we both talked about last week that, Jones, I don't think he's the guy. I think he's one of these career backups that you're going to find out in another season. I think everybody's going to find out what we already believe is that Jones is a career backup. He's a guy who's going to look nice on your bench. He looks great holding a clipboard, but this is not the guy who's going to make a wide receiver any better than he currently is. Remember, Gallaudet was catching passes from Matthew Stafford. Now it's going to catch passes from Daniel Jones. It's you got to look at that too. Is who where's he going and who's he going to be getting passes from? So, and as rough as things were with the Lions, Matthew Stafford's still a good quarterback. He's he's still right. He can throw the ball. He completes. He's over 4,000 yards a season. Guy throws a ton of touchdowns. I mean, he is, a quality quarterback. And you're going to a guy who I think the Giants are going to find out after this season that they're going to need, they're going to need to make a move there.
Also at wide receiver, you brought up Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford will be throwing passes to Desean Jackson this year in Los Angeles with the Rams. We discussed Jackson a little bit a few weeks ago after he was released in Philly. He's an older wide receiver. The question is his health. Will he be on the field? But how do you view Jackson with Matthew Stafford now? Does he get another fountain of youth as he's gotten a few different times in his career?
I don't think he's going to stretch any fields for you right now. Not at this point in his career. A good pass catcher. I mean, the guy, what's always been overlooked about Jackson is, the guy can catch. He's a damn good receiver. But he's going to be a third, good third guy on the field. He'll get you some yardage across the middle. He might be able to fight for a couple balls along the sidelines. I don't know if he's going to make a big difference in Los Angeles at this point in his career. I think he's a good safety valve for the Rams, but I don't necessarily think Desean Jackson. I think they brought in Desean Jackson as just somebody to shore up the depth on the position.
I would agree, yes. And the last two wide receivers I want to mention today, A.J. Green signing with the Arizona Cardinals, and Sammy Watkins moving from Kansas City to the Baltimore Ravens. Both of these guys are going to have interesting fantasy value, I think. A.J. Green is 33, and he's dealt with a ton of injuries over the last 5 years, really. It's gone back a long time. And I think everyone's going to be clamored with, Green is paired with DeAndre Hopkins. And if he can just stay healthy, I want to pump the brakes on that because
so do I.
First of all, will Green stay healthy? That's the number one question. And Tristan West weighing in one more time. Guys, please check out this big wide receiver, Amir Smith Marset from Iowa. He's big and would be a good fit for Arthur Smith's system. All right, Wes, we will check that out. We can talk more about that next week. We'll
next week.
About that draft profile for that wide receiver. So I don't know. I can see it going both ways with Green. I can see some owners being just in love with him because they think he's healthy and they think that Hopkins is going to give him an opportunity to get single coverage, which he will. But will Green be healthy enough and good enough to take advantage of that? I can also see it the other way. Just everyone just says, "Oh, Green is washed up. Green is too old to consider for my fantasy lineup." And I guess I'm somewhere in the middle. I got to see where he lands in drafts before I say definitely don't take him. But I would definitely have a sign of caution there that, this is not the same AJ Green 3, 5, 7 years ago.
Yeah, I say it's a big sign of caution. I wouldn't take him. I wouldn't be involved with him. And I know a lot of fans still think there's a lot of quality. There's a lot of history behind the name as far as production, but
he might be a Hall of Famer. I mean, he's like borderline Hall of Fame quality.
Borderline, yeah.
There's a lot of, it's tough to judge these modern wide receivers because they've just got inflated numbers because of all the passing now. So he's got the numbers, but was he one of the best receivers during his era? And I think some people would jump on that and say yes. I guess it depends on what you define as best. Was he one of the best 5? Yeah. Was he one of the best 1 or 2? I don't know. So
right.
Well, that's a discussion for another day. But he's not that player anymore. And Watkins in Baltimore is intriguing because he becomes the number 1, and he really did well with Patrick Mahomes. But the question is, can he do that as the number 1? Can he continue to produce, even if he has more opportunities, more targets? Will he have as much quantity in terms of taking advantage of that volume with the catches and the yardage, because you don't have as elite of a passer in Lamar Jackson, and you don't have an offense that really has produced an elite fantasy wide receiver in really a long time. No. You're probably looking again at Sammy Watkins remaining in the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 range. I don't think he has a value uptick, even though he went to a good offense. It's an offense that likes to run the ball.
Yeah. Problem with Watkins is I don't think he's ever fulfilled the potential that everybody thought he had when he came into the league. I think he's lived quite a bit on that potential coming out of college that he's never really showed. He can make some great catches. He's still fast. I think there's a lot of qualities. There's qualities you see in him now that you saw coming out of college, and he never really has shown that he's been that guy, though. I don't know how much better he makes that Ravens pass attack.
Really? So you don't even like it from a real life standpoint for the Ravens?
Not particularly. I don't know if it depends on, depends on the Ravens giving Lamar Jackson time to throw again. Watkins not durable enough. You might just be right. Yeah, exactly, Stephen. I'm not impressed, real life, with the Ravens picking up Sammy Watkins. He's probably the best option that was available to them at the time. I don't think he's going to make an appreciably better. He's going to make Baltimore's offense appreciably better. I just don't. I don't see it.
It'll be interesting to see what his role is. In Buffalo and Los Angeles, he was a deep threat. You averaged more than 15 yards per catch in his first 4 seasons with Buffalo and Los Angeles. But in Kansas City the last 3 years, they used him differently. He caught more passes, but he averaged 13 yards per catch or less. So he was more of a slot receiver, and he wasn't necessarily getting a bunch of big plays, and he wasn't scoring a lot of touchdowns. He had 8 touchdowns in 2017 with the Rams, and he had a big touchdown year in his second season with the Bills. He had 9 in 2015. But, does he get more red zone opportunities because the Ravens are so starved for a wide receiver, and does that help his value? Maybe, but we got to see, first. We got to see first, how they use him. But going into the year, I would agree with you that I don't think his value has gone up, changing teams here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I could see why his numbers suffered under the Chiefs a little bit. Tyreek Hill is the guy that Mahomes likes when it comes to throwing the deep ball, when he wants to look at somebody deep. So yeah. I'm not surprised that maybe Watkins saw of a down, improved catches, not stretching the field because they didn't need him to stretch the field. They had guys who could stretch the field.
Yeah.
But I doubt whether he still has that capability. I don't know. I don't know if he's ever been he can make downfield catches. I don't, that's not like his signature. He doesn't really have a signature. He's got the name, but he's never impressed me.
Well, we're out of time here today. Thanks for all the comments, everyone. We love having you guys listen and be part of the show. If you're watching on replay, reach out to Tom and I on Twitter at TJ Pollen, at DM Holcomb. Chris, thanks for being our producer. We'll be back next Saturday, noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central.
Have a great week.